Hey, what's up? I'm the Zim. This is the Zim video. This is volume 3, part 21 of my rideshare experience video series. Sorry. I've been a rideshare driver since February 2nd, 2017, and I've been documenting it on the YouTube for you to enjoy. Thanks again for joining. If you haven't subscribed, please do. That'd be great. Thanks. I always start off with how much I made. Start off with Uber this week. So I drive both Uber and Lyft nowadays, and with Uber, I made $471.67. That includes $43.50 in tips, and 71 rides. Ooh, I didn't write down the hours. I don't know how long it took me. Sorry, you can see it there. All right, so let's go on to Lyft. Lyft is $323.50 and $54.63 in tips. Did 42 rides, so a total rides of 113. So that brings, I didn't do the grand total yet. Oh, it's up in the heads-up display. Grand total of rides, somewhere over 12,000 rides. And then I got $7, as you can see in the heads-up display. If you add up the tips, I got $7 more in tips, so I got $105.13 in tips. And total pay this week was $802.17. Made my goal. My goal these days is to do 800 a week for now. And I made it this week, so I made my goal. And let's do the daily breakdown for Uber. That's what I did each day when I drove. I think I pretty much drove Wednesday through Sunday this week, right? I can't remember. And then you can see it there. And then let's do Lyft, same thing. Daily breakdown. There it is. All right, if you have any questions about how much I made and how I made it, feel free to contact me through the comments, and I will be happy to break it down for you. Now we like to get into shout outs and mail time. I do shout outs for everybody that has commented on one of my rideshare videos that I've never seen comment before, just to say thank you. So we have a bunch of those, and then we have one mail type question today, and then we're going to get into my just experience, something that's come up for me this week. All right, David Sincere, R. Kelly, ZZIINN333, Rock and Ride, another rideshare company. They did comment. I think it was just a spam more than anything else, trying to get there. Anyways, we'll talk about other rideshare companies that aren't Lyft or Uber at some point. Jimmy Lazala, D. Ramirez, Jamie Garrido, 4 No One Time Waits, and Abraham Gribbe. All right, so that's the shout outs. Thanks a lot for commenting. If you haven't commented, be sure to do it, because comments are what's up. I love comments, and it helps the algorithm, right? Get me more views. If you comment, then maybe somebody else will see it. So let's talk about the mail time. It's a quick one. It is from that last shout out, Abraham Garabay. Oh, I wrote it down wrong. Sorry, Abraham. Why would you humiliate yourself and post your earnings? Those are horrible numbers. So the reason I even mentioning this one, so it's kind of funny. It's just a couple of levels. First off, the level of disappointment with YouTube and how many people just watch one of my videos and don't have the context. There's no way I can give you the entire context of this show in one video. You have to be kind of following along a little bit to get the entire context. So basically, it's just a reminder. I wanted to use this one as a reminder that what I'm doing is trying to show you a realistic example of what it's like driving for this job. Sometimes my numbers aren't that great. Sometimes they suck. Sometimes when I'm hustling, they're great. They're all over the place. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to see the reality of doing it day in and day out, weekly, full-time driving. Sometimes, like right now, I'm going through a pretty strong phase of burnout. Don't want to do the job anymore, but it's what I'm doing. I have like 4 more months of full-time driving till I get to grad school, and then I'll be cutting back to maybe 1 weekend a month or so. I have to make about $1,000. I have to make about $1,000 somehow after I get into grad school, and it'll most likely come from rideshare driving. But yeah, so if you're watching this for the first time and you're you know, you're only getting one slice of the story I kind of been telling through the last 2+ years of rideshare driving. So feel free to go back to older episodes, go older shows, and just check them out. See how I made different amounts. For a long time, $1,000 was my goal. I was able to make it. I could still make it if I wanted to. $1,000 a week. I know how to do that. I know exactly how to make the money and how it happens. One thing about some of the people that comment like Abraham did with, expectations around numbers, and I find a lot of people that, brag maybe about their numbers, haven't done it sustainably full time. You might have a really good week, but trying to sustain that is just usually not sustainable if you're just balling out 1 week or 2 weeks, and then try to do that for like a year and see where the reality is and where your body is and what's happening. So I've always tried to do this job sustainably. I've never prioritized just making the most money. I don't know if that's a true statement, but through the process of doing the job, I found a value of working sustainably is more important than always having the best numbers. Sometimes I make a little less just because it's slow, whatever's going on in my life or in the job of that week, it affects it all. So I'd rather work sustainably and be able to get it back out there the next day and the next week, because this is what I've chosen to do for now, than just try to always get a certain number that would make it look good for the show or whatever, like that. So anyways, something to keep in mind. So I guess I just hope that you would be willing to investigate a little bit before you make an assumption about how I think about the job and why I'm sharing what I'm sharing. So cool. So thanks for those that are following along. Awesome. All right, so that's it for mail time. I only had one. There wasn't really much that came in terms of questions or things that I could really use for the show. Lots of comments about things, and one of the things that came up this week, so from my experience, if you don't know, from what I understand, there's other drivers that are trying to promote and support the idea of doing a strike on May 8th for no driver day, no driving that day, just to make a statement to the companies, to the rideshare companies and the community at large that, there is something going on with the industry and how people that have chosen to do it full time are being treated, so I didn't write this down. This is just a thought. One of the ideas that has come up since I've been investigating it a little bit more for myself is this idea of so great, you don't have to do this full time. Obviously, you can do anything. You could do possibly a whole myriad of other jobs, but some of us have chosen to do it full time. And when you do it full time, it starts to bring to the surface just the, what it's like being in this job, what it does to your body, what it does to your car. Is it worth it? There's just a lot of different factors that come up because driving full time really puts a microscope or macroscope on the ideas. It's like you really get a good sense of what it's like, how much you make, and all this kind of stuff. So then people start to say, well, don't do it full time. You don't need to do the job. So does that mean then people that do it part time shouldn't also be afforded the same kind of not rights isn't the right word, but afforded the same ethics, I guess, of the company to treat their employees the best they can? Just because somebody's working part-time and making a few bucks here and there doesn't mean that they shouldn't also be awarded what it would have been if they worked full-time. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if that made complete sense, but it just got me thinking about, just because you don't have to do it full-time doesn't mean the people that do it part-time shouldn't also be treated better. Just because the stress of the job isn't as apparent because of how they do it. So I hope that made sense. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Maybe I'll follow back up on that at some point, or maybe you have a question for me regarding it, and I'll follow up in the comments or next video. But this whole idea of thinking about, a strike, obviously a strike is for this idea of trying to make things better. So I just wrote down a short list of things that, if I was in charge and they asked me and said, Zim, we're going to take your advice and we want to implement what you have to say, what would you tell us to do to make this job better? And this is what I would do. The first thing, I'm just going to read it in list. This is not in order of importance. It's just the way I wrote it down. First thing I'm going to write down is transparency. I would like it if the companies were massively more transparent about their agendas, what they actually want. Do they want part-time drivers? Do they want full-time drivers? I want them to say it. I want them to be like, we are designing this company around X, Y, and Z. This is what we want. This is what we're trying to do. Instead of the ambiguity of who they're trying to go for, what they want, I just wish they would be very straightforward. And one of the things that has always bothered me, and I haven't seen it around in a while, maybe it's because I haven't been looking for it, or maybe because they got rid of it. But when I first started, Lyft anyway, I'm not sure about Uber, but Lyft used this idea of make $35 an hour, like as this big selling point for the job. And I've always wanted to know where they got that from. Where did that come from? Where did $35 an hour come from? Did it come from 1 hour in a week and in a certain market? Or did it come from the average of something? Because from my experience, $35 an hour is not a realistic amount you can make. You can make it here and there for 1 hour or a portion of an hour because you made a ride that was $35 and it was only a half-hour ride, but then you waited an hour and a half to get your next ride. So if you do it full-time, as you do this job in a bigger space, 1 hour of $35 an hour isn't enough to sustain anybody. You need that to be hour after hour after hour after hour, and that does not happen. In San Diego, the more realistic expectation I'm going to say is about from $20 to $27 an hour. That's a pretty wide range. And that's before gas, that's before expenses. So once you start taking off that stuff, what does that leave you? It leaves you not as much as it seems, but I wish they would say, in certain areas, they would say, San Diego, if you work between 5 and 10 on a regular basis, you can expect to make $25 an hour. If you work from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., you can expect to make $20 an hour, or whatever it may be. But give ranges, give more realistic expectations of how much you can make, and I think you would get better drivers because people would know what they're expecting. There would be less bitterness, there would be less resentment. People would come into the job knowing what to expect, and they would be able to make a decision better on if they wanted to continue to do the job. It wouldn't be like baiting people and tricking people into believing something that doesn't exist. That's my number one. That's the first thing I'm thinking is transparency. The next thing is just rates. Like right now, what would be a good rate? Right now, as you see, the heads-up display, the mile rate is about, 56 cents a mile, and then, or 65? 65? I think it's 65. And then the minute rate is like 22 cents a minute for waiting when you're on the ride and when you're, the time it takes to do the ride. How much would be a reasonable amount to get us paid better, but not jack up the prices so much for the passenger that it becomes unattainable? This would require, I think it would just require the two companies, the main companies, Lyft and Uber, to agree on doing rates the same pretty much in terms of what the drivers get paid. The nuances they do in terms of charging the passengers would vary depending on promotions and things like that. Or it would require regulation from the government to say, rideshare drivers have to make this much per mile per minute in this area, period. And then that would force the hand. But what I'm thinking right now is just this idea of $1 a mile and 50 cents a minute. Would that put the price so far out of reach for passengers that it would kick it back into taxi places? I don't know. I haven't done the math, but even if the passenger is getting charged $1.50 a mile and I don't know, 75 cents a minute, that seems pretty low to me. I don't know. Well, how much bigger from the rate that we make, the cut the drivers make versus the cut the companies make needs it to be for everything to be sustainable? I don't know, because from what I understand right now, Lyft is still losing money. So I don't know. I don't know, but right now, I feel like there's a lot of room to get drivers paid more, to make drivers feel like they are valued. And for me, the only way you can honestly show, companies can show drivers that they're valued is by paying them more. Parties, t-shirts, any other little incentives. Oh, one thing I didn't write down, just the entirety of the perks packages, like what discounts you can get on certain things for doing so many miles, the gas price, like the flex card, like the gas rewards card that we get from, I know we get one through Lyft, I have one through Lyft, the flex fuel thing for, or whatever it's called, through Shell gasoline. They give us 7 cents off a gallon if we do enough rides and something like that's ridiculous. It's not worth it. It doesn't matter. There's so many gas stations in every area that are less than the discount. So why would you ever use that discount? Make it make actual solid benefits to dedicating yourself to one platform or the other. Make your gas card like 50 cents off, even $1 off a gallon, things like that. I don't know what we require for them to do that, but there's just not enough. They don't show us they value us by actually giving us really, really good, like, you've put in the hours, you've put in the time, you've put in the miles. Here is something that you get that really will make a difference. There's nothing like that. Not even the bonuses. The bonuses are not good enough, especially now that I've done dual platform driving. I make more money faster. I ignore the bonuses. So in San Diego, it works pretty well that way. The email and online support for, one more last thing about rates. Minimum ride, $5. You never ever get less than $5 per ride. That would, whatever they have to do to make that a possibility or reality, that's what I would like to see. So in San Diego, there's a ton of $3 rides for both platforms. $3 is the smallest amount we make in San Diego is $3 per ride. And sometimes you get caught in these like an hour or 2 hours of just doing $3 rides, and it's like you haven't made any money. You need the long rides. But if it was $5 a ride, you did 3 rides. That's $15 right there in an hour possibly. 3 rides, 3 hours, 3 rides in San Diego per hour is pretty. That you can't expect too many more than that. So if you did 3 rides an hour and they were each $5 each at least, that's pretty good, because we already know passengers don't tip to the percentage that's required to make this job. Like if it was relying on passengers tipping more, then if that's what the platforms think, then they don't tip enough for those short rides to become something worth it. So, but if the short rides just all by themselves were $5, that might be worth it. All right, next one is support, email type support. Implement. So right now, from my experience, the support is all designed on the new driver. Everything about fax, online support, email support is all geared toward people that are new-ish, haven't driven, are trying to figure it out. When you start to do like 10,000 rides plus, like I have, you start to like have more higher level questions about the job. There's like things that come up that you're like, what do I do in this scenario? So as you gain more rides, when you email support and you contact support, they should know your account. They should be able to pull up your account, and they should start tiering who deals with you. What support person deals with you? If you have 5,000 rides, they give you somebody that kind of knows a little bit more. If you get to 10,000 rides, I was thinking, what if everybody that has 10,000 or more rides on a platform gets assigned a specific support person? So every time you have a question, you are asking the same exact person. I think that would be pretty fantastic, and you can develop a relationship. I think that would be awesome. And the last one I have on here, and there's obviously tons more things. These are just some things I could think of. But the last one is for people in the rental programs, especially, and maybe there's a way to do this for everyone else. If you decide to commit to one platform, this is especially for one platform drivers, but if you decide to commit to one platform, give some kind of incentive structure that allows you to get basically sick days. And I brought this up before, but the concept that I have is every so many rides you put in, you get like an account or some kind of like tracking method of you get rides that you can cash in that you don't actually have to take. So let's say you're in the rental program. For me, or let's say you're in the rental program. Let's say you need 100 rides a week to make sure that you get the top level discount. I'm going to add one more thing after this. You get 100 rides a week to get the top level discount, and something comes up that week. Your kid gets sick, something, and you can only get 70, 80 rides in, or maybe more, maybe like 90 rides in. You only can get 90 rides in. You have 10 rides left, but you've been doing the rental program for 6 months, and you've built up this cache of rides. Like you have like 15 rides that you're allowed to cash in to say, hey, I can't make the bonus, all my rides this week, but I have these extra rides. Let me use those, and it'll get you to that bonus level. So those are kind of like sick day rides, or I don't know what to call them, but that kind of idea. And the other thing that reminded me about talking about the rental programs. Never, ever, ever, never, ever make a rental agreement, make a rental program such that the driver in the rental program car doesn't make at least, the bonus doesn't allow them to make at least a break even on the cost. So give them a reasonable tier of drives to make in whatever area. Like in San Diego, 120 rides is pretty much a reasonable amount. It's like a 5-day work week. It's a fairly I'd say 110, just to be even more reasonable. In San Diego, like 110 rides is a very reasonable amount of rides to get like a tier, a level of discount on your rental costs that would equal it out, that would cancel it out. So you never are paying more. So when you're working, you don't feel like you're being taken advantage of. That was one of the problems I had with the rental program, was I would, grind my face off driving, and yet I would make the money, I would make enough to cover, I would make my bonus, but yet I still owed Hertz or Lyft or whoever money after I got all my rides in to make the bonus I was making. I still owed them money. So what I would always do would work a little extra to make my goals amount as well. So it was it's not easy. So there should always be a tier, if not even a tier that's better, like you get some money. Like with the fare, the last rental program I was in through Uber was with fare, and they gave me $100 by being in the program, which was amazing. So it gave me a quest bonus every week, which really helped make the job sustainable. So, but at least make it so that if you are dedicated and put the rides in a reasonable, sustainable amount, don't make it something ridiculous. Like right now with Lyft, they give me a bonus tier of 145 rides for like $280, which is not worth it at all. It's just a totally unsustainable amount of rides. Like I maybe could do it 1 week, but that just consumes my entire week to devote it to the job. So I'm not able to do anything else, be with my family, be with my kids, do anything else. So it means I'm only so how is that sustainable? That's not something I could do week after week. Why are you offering that bonus level? I don't understand. So don't make it unsustainable. Make it a sustainable amount. And even right now the 123 rides that I get from Lyft, if I want to do it, if I want to just drive only Lyft, 123 rides is my first tier bonus. It's not. That's not easy. That's not. If giving yourself 2 days off, that's a reasonable thing to expect. 2 days off, and then working 5 days. Working within 5 days, you want to work at the busier times to get those rides in. It takes all day every day to do it, removing the non-busy times. So anyways, the expectation, I guess that's the last thing I'll say. I would love the rideshare companies to take a really hard look at their expectations they're putting on drivers, and are they offering them reasonable goals that they can feel good about achieving in a sustainable way that doesn't make them fatigue too quickly because they're working way too hard to make these bonuses and goals and the bonuses and things like that are not bonuses. They are what makes the job sustainable. So to think of them as, to call them bonuses, they need to actually make them bonuses. They need to make them better. They need to make them so you make more. So, I don't know. that's my last piece of that. Those are the things that I would tell the companies if they asked me and said, Zim, we need you. You are the only one that can, put us straight, can tell us how we can do a better job. That's what I would say. Those are the things I would start with. And probably a whole bunch of other stuff. All right. Be sure to, in the comments, put the things that I missed that you've always wanted to see happen with the rideshare companies. And let's add to this conversation so they know, because they're listening, right? There's my owl. Check out the owl. He's looking at you. All right. Till next time, may your rides be long, big long rides, because that's where the money's at. Your tips are fat, because we need tips. Because if you're not a driver and you're watching this, you made it this far. Tips are what makes it happen. The companies don't pay us enough. We need tips to make it it's sustainable and happen. So hopefully you're a good driver, though. If you're a good driver and you're not getting tips, we gotta get people giving you tips. All right. Peace.